The Brooklyn Nets gave up a 17-point lead at one point, and they blow a golden opportunity in game two, 114-107 against the Boston Celtics. Joining me now from Locked On Nets, Adam Armbrecht. And Adam, what happened?
Kevin Durant packed up his professional level game and he just put it into storage, I think a little bit prematurely. There's a lot of things you can point to. Boston has obviously played a strong first two games. I don't think that they've been perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but when things look like they're going well over the first half and then into the third quarter, you always have to have in the back of your mind, this is being accomplished without your superstars having good games. And that's what affords a team like Boston to be able to come back.
Speaking of superstars not having good games, the final point total for Kevin Durant looks nice, 27, but he's 4 for 17. He's not shot the ball well at all in the first two games. How much of that is KD missing looks that we normally expect him to make, and how much of that is Boston bodying him, being physical with him, and making him work harder than he wants to?
Yeah, on the one hand, there's that taxing nature of how Boston's going to play you, right? They have multiple players they can throw at you. They're running blitzing defenses, and Kevin Durant's not the biggest guy in the world for all of his height. That being said, Kevin Durant's been around the NBA. It's not like he's never played a physical defense or been in a tough physical matchup over the course of a 7-game series. You can look at a lot of plays where he looks careless on the basketball. It's like he doesn't quite have the touch with his hands. The passes aren't good. And then some of the decision making, that can be the buildup of frustration, but he actively has walked himself into bad spots on the court that leaves him exposed to get the ball stripped away from him. Another 6 turnovers in this game. So, this is not take the credit away from Boston, but I put these first two games solely on the shoulders of Kevin Durant. He's far too good of a player to be succumbing to whatever Boston is throwing at him.
And to the point about physicality, he did shoot 20 free throws in this game and made 18 of them. So it wasn't like he wasn't getting a favorable whistle when he was getting played physically, defensively. Offensively, though, 17 points in the fourth quarter. Like you're just not going to win in a playoff game doing that. And what makes this even more astonishing is Kevin Durant. Ever heard of him? Kyrie Irving, ever heard of him? So what is happening in these fourth quarters, or at least in this fourth quarter, where they couldn't get anything going? The offense looked truly awful.
Yeah, this is a tricky part. We just talked about it over on the Locked On Nets podcast around there's certain players like a Goran Dragic, veteran, experienced, who now has put together 2 very good games for himself. Only played 20 minutes in this one, not utilized enough, obviously, in the second half. Didn't really see the court until the back end of the third quarter. But the second part is when you look at coaching and say, what can you do better? How can you improve and give yourself better opportunities? Do you find yourself in a fourth quarter of a game and say, you know what? We got to get looks for everyone other than Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. I think that's the hard part here, right? Because 99 times out of 100, even after a game like this, at the end of it, you're still going to say, put the ball in my superstar's hands and I'll live with the results. Could you have had better success going to some of the supporting cast? Maybe. But we know that that's what the NBA is. It's driven on the superstar talent. And I think you probably sacrificed 4, 5, 6 possessions in that fourth quarter when they mattered most at the hands of 2 players that are struggling mightily. In this particular game, we know Kyrie had a good one in game 1.
How can they get those guys easier opportunities? Because even when Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving were getting looks, it felt a lot of your turn, my turn. And it was ISO heavy, not a lot of movement, a lot of guys standing around. And to some extent, that is the playoffs. But there has to be ways to get these guys a little bit more space to operate. So how can they do it?
Yeah, I mean, listen, you can talk about adjusting who you have in those rotations there, trying to set multiple screens out at the top of the arc and work some actions with the 2 of them. Kyrie Irving far more adept with the ball in his hands of utilizing those screens. Kevin Durant, again, seemingly is struggling right now to maximize the value of having a pick set for him and not get caught up in the wash a little bit. The other piece is 5 assists in this game for Kevin Durant, just 1 for Kyrie Irving. We always talk about when your 2 superstars and the supporting cast is good but not necessarily deep, you need to lean in to the facilitation, right? Set up the other players so that the defense at some point has to say, look, if they're going to be willing to poison us with everyone else, we're going to have to stay at home. And then you get those single matchups, and then Kevin Durant can start to find his rhythm. And I think once he's cooking, it's going to be hard to cool him off. It's just a matter of getting that water from virtually ice cold to even a slow simmer in game number 3.